Welcome to the Selling in the Motor Trade podcast, in association with Simcoe Training. This is the weekly podcast where we share best practice, tips and ideas on how to sell more cars, improve your service department, and generally put more profit into your dealership or dealer group. I'm your host, Simon Bowkett. Now, some of you probably already know me as Skippy. I would start by saying thank you for taking the time to listen to this podcast. Hi, welcome to another episode of Selling in the Motor Trade. Now listen, I know last week's episode was a bit clickbaitish, and if you didn't catch it, I just said, hey, listen, test drives don't work anymore. But of course, demonstration drives do. So go and have a listen to that episode so I'm not having to repeat myself. I'm sure when it comes out, I would have got a lot of abuse about last week's episode about, what do you mean test drives don't work? Of course, it's clickbait. We want to demonstrate the right feature to the right customer at the right time. And I believe that bums in seats always have worked, and I think they always will work. Yes, of course, you've all sold cars without doing a demonstration drive. I have after COVID-19. If we didn't do it, we starved. But isn't it so much easier when you raise the customer's desire in the car? Here's something else, though, that I think is so important. We all know that we've got to get back to basics. Everyone's telling me their sales teams after COVID, it was shell and peas. And the good old fashioned basics of the sales process is because we had salespeople that weren't employed before COVID-19, or they only come in after that period. And the whole sales process, you didn't need to do a demonstration drive. When someone called up and said, hey, is that used car still available? I want it because I've missed out on the last 3 cars. And also when the salesperson said, yeah, it is available. Do you want it? If not, I've got 6 of my colleagues are going to sell it from under me. You know what? You didn't have to say, well, hold on for a second. Unless the car's exactly right for you, no price is going to be good enough. Let's just go for a drive, make sure the car's exactly right for you. But now, guys, the world's changed, hasn't it? We've got to get back to the basics. We've got to get back to the 3 sales in any sale. You got to sell yourself first, the product second, and then the deal. Now, I talked about on the last episode, what do you do when you do this demonstration drive? And the demonstration drive, for the people who didn't catch that one, instead of coming out of your dealership and going left, 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 like we were probably all taught to do, I talked about a demonstration drive where you come out and you drive straight away. The salesperson drives first to demonstrate the right feature to the right customer at the right time. We talked about loving golf course car parks midweek because they're nice and quiet. And I just said, hey, listen, let's talk about the 5 things I want you to do when you get to that handover point. And I stopped last time because I was droning on. I thought, okay, I'll talk about that specifically because I think there's a few key things you can do on this stage. Okay. Now, you want to find a lovely golf course car park or something like that. The midweek, the bowling alley that's not used midweek, somewhere where there's not lots of other cars, because I personally want to frame the car. How special does that poverty pack car look with all the flash ones in it in the car showroom? If you can get it away, you can actually frame the car. So that's why I like to do it. Think about a good jeweler, a high-class jeweler. You go in and have a look at that ring or that watch, and they get the black mat out, don't they? And they get one ring out, and they almost frame it. Of course, security's got lots to do this. They don't bring the whole punnet of rings out. They bring one at a time for security, but also maybe to frame it, to make it look special. That's what I like to do. Somewhere where you can butterfly the car. Now, what I mean by butterfly the car, you can stop the car, open up all the doors, open up the boot or the hatch on whatever the car is, underneath the bonnet, and we can crawl all the way around it. Now, brand new salespeople, you might want to try this approach because I don't know about you, but sometimes I felt a little bit self-conscious doing the full presentation that your manufacturer has shown you how to do on the showroom floor. With all my experience, colleagues looking at me, all the old dinosaur salespeople, oh, no, what's he doing? Oh, he's been on a manufacturer's course. This way, if you take yourself away, you can do a full presentation without any feeling self-conscious. Also, your customers, okay, they might feel more comfortable away from the environment as well. Okay. Now, when we stop there, okay, 5 things we're going to talk about. Number 1, I always love to put the seat back. Why do we put the seat back? Yeah, you know why, because I got short little legs. I don't know about you, okay, but I got short little legs. And if you jump in my car after I've driven it, you can think, goodness me, this is tiny. So what I do is I'll put the seat back a touch. Now be smart. Don't put it too far back because there might not be any space behind you. But number 1, seat back. Number 2, rear vision mirror. I was always taught to knock the rear vision mirror. Now, the reason why we do that, if you knock the rear vision mirror, your customer has to set it up perfectly for them, okay? Again, your customer might just put up with something that's not perfectly right. If I drive Emma, my wife's car, on the weekend, I'm just going down the shops. I don't adjust all her mirror settings because I don't want to get in trouble. And if I want to look behind me, I know this is really bad, but sometimes I just duck down a bit. Does anyone else do that? Now, if we do that, maybe our customer might do the same thing. Now, if you knock the rear vision mirror, it forces them to set up perfectly for them. Now, again, I always felt a bit silly just knocking the rear vision mirror. And people think, what's he doing that for? So now I'll turn it into a demonstration. Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Comfort customer, Mr. and Mrs. Safety conscious customer. This car's got the automatic dimming mirror. Because we all know what it's like when someone comes up behind you and they haven't got the matrix headlighting and they're blinding you in your Volvo and you're having to adjust the mirror setting. What this car does is it automatically dims that rear vision mirror, but also the side mirrors as well. So you're not having to just, use that little manual adjuster and mess up all the mirror settings. Then you can leave the mirror out of whack. It just seems a little bit more natural for me. So 1, seat back. Number 2, adjust the rear vision mirrors. Number 3, what you might want to do is adjust the fuel consumption computer, reset it. Now, use a lot of common sense on this one, okay? And we're going to be talking about an ICE vehicle, internal combustion engine vehicle, okay? And hybrid, to be fair. Anything with an internal combustion engine, not full EV. We need to deal with them differently, obviously. But are you old enough, listen to this, to remember a choke in a car? Unfortunately, I am. What a choke did on a car, it choked off the air supply to the engine, so more fuel would get into it until the car was warmed up. See, any internal combustion engine car, it needs more fuel until it's warmed up. So what you might want to do is reset the fuel trip computer after you've driven out halfway and the car has warmed up. Now, you've got to use some common sense with this. So if your whole demonstration drive isn't long enough, the car, may not have had time to warm up. And people might say, oh, no, don't reset the trip computer now because they're going to do a short journey and it'll show the really bad fuel consumption. Well, firstly, I would argue that maybe your demonstration drive might be a bit too short, okay? But also use some common sense. If you jump into a customer's demonstration car and they drive the car like driving Miss Daisy, very sedately, okay? You might not want to readjust the fuel trip computer, but point it out. If you or your colleague drives your demonstrator vehicle to work like you stole it, you might want to reset the fuel trip computer at the beginning of your journey at the end. I think this is so important when we've got customers coming from diesel, because diesel's now the work of the devil in Europe, and they're going to hybrid or a petrol vehicle, and they're used to the better fuel consumption. So many people are focused on fuel consumption. And when you see, or the customer's seen that's advertised at 49 miles per gallon with a WLTP, that's a real world testing procedure for the people not in Europe. When they see that, but this car, because your colleague, okay, drove the car to work like they stole it and they managed to get down to 27 miles per gallon, they might think, oh my goodness, this car's nowhere near as good as it is. So with those ones, you might want to reset the fuel trip computer and use some common sense on it. Again, with electric vehicles, how often is everyone interested in range? And I get it. Of course they are. Okay. But with range, okay, it's a wet, no, forget that. If it's wet, doesn't make any difference at all. What I was meaning to say, it's a really cold winter's day. Okay. You've driven the car with the heating on, the heated seats and the steering wheel. Okay. And the car should be getting up to 390 miles range. But this car's now only showing, I don't know, goodness me, half of that. Okay. People are going to think, oh my goodness, the efficiency is not as good as this. So that's where you might want to do something with the fuel trip computer. The way I set this up is, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Efficiency, economy customers. This car is achieving up to 49 miles per gallon in old money. Now, please bear in mind that's done in test conditions. With WLTP, it's a real world testing. If you compare us to another manufacturer, you'll get a fair comparison. But in the real world, you might not get that. So what we'll do is let's reset the fuel trip computer now and see what you're achieving on the way back. Again, the demonstration drive has to be long enough and not so much stop-start there to get a fair indication on that one. And we're not talking about manipulating customers at all. But you know what? We just want to make sure we put our best foot forward. So seat back, adjust the rear vision mirror, maybe do something with fuel trip computer on the car. And then the next one, number 4, is set up the satellite navigation. This is the real reason why I'm loving a demonstration drive, which is almost halfway out, where you're demonstrating features, advantages, and benefits, stopping the car and letting the customer drive the car. Because this way, you can actually set up the satellite navigation on the way back to the dealership. Instead of you talking as a salesperson, now you got bitching Betty telling them where to go. So you're demonstrating the satellite navigation system, or maybe the Apple CarPlay or the Android equivalent, okay, if you want to set that up, or you've got your manufacturer's sat nav on it. So I'll turn around and say, hey, Mr. Customer, with the satellite navigation, we've got some different areas here called categories. If you look under the categories here, we've got the servicing. That's our dealership there, but take it wherever you want. And the great news with that is when they get back in the car and start it up, most satellite navigation systems for an hour anyway, remembers the last destination. So as soon as you start again, all they have to do is hit the resume button and it's telling them where to go. So they don't feel like they're being controlled because you're not controlling them. Maybe the satellite navigation is. Okay. So that's where you might want to try that one there. Now, some people say, oh, Simon, I always get their phone and set up the Apple CarPlay. Just be a bit cautious with that one. Setting up my phone in a company demonstrator. Do I want all my phone book information going into the car? I know when I get out, they don't get it again, but the customers know that. Just be a bit sensitive of this. Some people say they set up their own phone and show the customer how the Apple CarPlay works. I personally, if Apple CarPlay was something specifically a customer has a desire for, it's something about that car that put it on their shopping list, I'll set it up. If not, call me lazy, but sometimes I find I just don't have time to do it. Sorry, that's an excuse. I am lazy. I just don't do that. Maybe I should. Okay. Here's the last thing. I want you to take the keys out of the car. Now, some of you people might say, oh, yeah, got to take the keys out of the car because I live in the middle of Sydney and there's so much crime here. Okay. Yeah, you know what? That might be part of the reason why your boss has told you to do it. But let me tell you, it's super, super rare. Okay. I've been in car dealerships for 33 years of my life now. Every day I'm in a car dealership somewhere. Normally, I have a bit of holidays every now and then. Okay. And it's only twice it's ever happened when I'm in a dealership. One was an Audi dealership in Stafford. And you know what? They got the car back very quick. When you hear the whole story, I think it's quite sad, actually. The salesperson told me that, hey, Skip, the guy said, get out, I've got a gun. They think the man just put their hand in his pocket. The salesperson did the right thing, said, come on, get out of the dealership, get out of the car straight away. He phoned the dealership, picked me up. Of course, they called the police. And the police said, well, have you got their home address? Well, yeah, but it'll be a fake address, surely. I said, yeah, we'll just check. And the car was in the man's driveway, I don't know, an hour after, something like that. Now, when you hear the whole story, it's quite sad. The person had, I think it was learning difficulties or something like that. From memory, they never even prosecuted. They got the car back very quickly. Bless him, the person thought he was playing a game of Grand Theft Auto or something like that. Okay. Another happened in a Peugeot dealership in Bristol. These people pulled the weapon to get out. Salesperson did the right thing. Bad people were driving away, and a salesperson jumped on the bonnet of the car. Guys, no sale, no car's worth your life. Okay. I don't know who your boss is. Okay. But you know what? If someone does something like that, say, hey, enjoy, get out, make sure you got your phone with you. Some of you guys will have situations where they'll track your phone so they know where you are. Okay. But it's super, super rare, honestly. Don't get me wrong. Cars get stolen from dealerships. It's normally when we're shut. Okay. And people cut keys and go back afterwards or something like that. On a demonstration drive, that's super, super rare. Okay. Something's more of an issue though. Okay. And I'll finish off the key conversation and tell you something that's bigger than the issue. The reason I take the keys is not for car thieves. The reason I take the keys is for control. Okay. What I want to do is I want to show the customer the risk. Okay. If I just hand the keys to them, they might just start up and go before I've had a chance to make sure their seat's in the right position or their mirrors are set up. Make sure they know how all the controls work. And I'm trying to have to point out things when they're driving the car. So you can do those different presentations and take the key with you. It's not for car thieves. So then once you present the whole car, you can almost present the key back to them when they're in the car, because then there's lovely mental ownership going on. There you go, Mr. and Mrs. Safety conscious customer. Hand the keys over and get them to start the car up, keep the air conditioning going or the heating going, whatever time of year you are. I said there's something else that's bigger of an issue than car thieves. And please, you need to promise me this. Is anyone jumps in the car and starts driving it like a complete nutter? No sale is worth your life. I'll tell you that for a couple of reasons. Okay. One, I was probably about 20 years old, maybe 19, something like that. I was in a dealership and two young army guys on a 5-liter V8 Ford Falcon went for a drive. And these two young army guys went through one crossroads and they didn't slow down. I remember distinctly thinking, oh, I was a bit tired, but I can remember thinking, but I don't want to jeopardize a deal. So I didn't say anything. Second crossroads, they didn't slow down. Again, I thought, oh, not too sure about that. But I didn't want to jeopardize a deal. And also at that age, I was a bit of a boy racer as well. Third one, though, we never made it. A green Toyota Cressida come and T-boned us. Now, no one died. No one had life-changing injuries. But tell you what I learned very quickly. Very quickly, when we got back to the dealership, were these guys the real customers? Or were they the joyriders? Yeah. They were the joyriders. When we got back to the dealership, let's have a look at the car. No, we've had our fun. See you later there. Okay. So, you know, if someone drives the car like a complete dickhead, now I just say, oi, stick to the speed limit, will you? You can drive the car like that all day long where it's yours. But when I'm in the car, just stick to the speed limit. I don't even care if you're rude anymore because no sale is worth your life. And also, there's someone I want you to remember. There's just one person I know that I was in the dealership on the day my phone call had to go into this person's parents. He's no longer coming home because went out for a drive. They hit an oak tree and those things don't move. Guys, it's super rare. Be safe out there. Okay. Also, if you get someone you feel uncomfortable with, okay, ladies, do me a favor, ask one of the lads just to take this person for a drive, okay? I'm sure it's going to be very, very innocent and someone clumsily fancies you, and it's just a clumsy way to do it. But just be safe for me, okay? Take the keys, though, okay, for mental ownership. So that's what we're going to do on that handover point. Now, when we finish presenting the car, it's about time for them to drive. I'm going to do a couple of things here. I personally have to say, right, Mr. and Mrs. Customer, I'm going to be quiet now and let the car sell itself. Hey guys, I'm going to be quiet now and let the car sell itself. Feel free to ask any other questions. That's so important because your customers are driving a car that they're not used to. You see, if you're a salesperson listening to this podcast, you've got an ability that I've no longer got. You can jump into a car with a whole lot of different clutch biting points, different braking pressures, different steering feel, and you'll adjust without even thinking. I've been driving an automatic car for my last 4 cars. If I jump into a manual car that I hire from Dublin Airport, for the first 2 or 3 kilometers, it's like someone's put kangaroo petrol in it and stop start all the time. Okay. If the customer starts driving the car really shit, are they likely to blame the car or themselves? They'll blame the car. So that's why you drive first to prove it drives well. Okay. Drive like a chauffeur driver. But then when they're driving the car, hey, listen, I'm going to be quiet now. I'll let the car sell itself because they might be nervous driving this car. Make sure you offer to everyone in the whole buying party if they all want to drive the car. Even Eddie Expert. You know Eddie, the guy that turns up because his mate's buying a new car. And his mate, Eddie Expert, is driven by jealousy because he's not getting a new car, but his mate is. Okay. Involve him as part of the process because I tell you what, Eddie Expert will wreck the deal on you so quick if you belittle him or don't include him within the sale. Okay. So I'm going to be quiet now and just let the car sell itself until 5 minutes before we get back to the dealership. 5 minutes before we get back to the dealership, I might start getting them into a yes frame of mind. It gets up and goes quite well for a 1.X, doesn't it? Yeah, I'm really impressed with that. 2, the Bose sound system. The sound that sounds really good, doesn't it? 2 or 3 little yes tag questions. Something you're almost certain you're going to get a yes to. You might throw in a mental ownership question. Now, do me a favor. Don't say, can you see yourself driving this car to Edinburgh? That's a closed question. The answers are yes or no. You might say, hey, listen, you said you travel to Edinburgh regularly to see in-laws. How many times a year do you go there? See how that's an open question? And when they say, probably about 4 or 5 times a year, they're mentally picturing themselves driving to Edinburgh, off to see the in-laws in that lovely new car. You might want to pepper one of those in. I personally don't force in a mental ownership question if it doesn't naturally present itself. But then when they're, 2 minutes, 3 minutes before they get back to the dealership, 5 at the most, you might throw in your first trial close question. So George, Mary, whoever's driving the car, whoever the car's for, can I ask you, if everything stacks up right, is this the car you'd like to be driving the next 2 or 3 years? Or listen, apart from the numbers, is there anything stopping you on owning this car? Okay. Now listen, Mary, George, you like it. You like enough to want to own it. So what you're telling me, we just got to get the numbers right. That's the car you like to be going ahead with, or that's the car you like to be driving next 2 or 3 years. Now there's lots of words there that we have to avoid. It's deal, buy, okay, now. We might do now and today later, but at this stage when they're still driving the car, we'll probably avoid those. When they give an affirmative, yeah, I love the car. Great, we're getting the numbers right. It's the easiest part of my job. Let's go back and see what my sales manager has come up with. Let's go back and see what my boss has got for us. Okay. If they give you a wishy-washy, if everything stacks up right, is this the car you'd like to be driving for the next 2 or 3 years? Could be. You haven't got commitment. Now, listen, when you say could be, it sounds like there's something you're not sure about. Is there anything about this car you're not 100% sure about? No, it's great. And that just leaves the numbers then. Can I ask you, which number here you're not 100% sure about? Or they might give you a negotiation objection. Okay. Well, the mileage is higher than what I hoped. Well, it wouldn't be my first choice of color. Well, I wish it had full leather interior, not half leather interior. Let's see if that's a deal breaker. Yeah, okay. Well, that mileage is reflected in the price. If it had lower miles on it, we wouldn't be asking 39,995. But if everything else stacks up right, the mileage on that car, that wouldn't stop you wanting to own it, would it? If they said yes, okay, hey, we need to find a car with lower miles on it. Well, I wish it had full leather interior, not half leather interior. Okay, and that's reflected in the price. If everything else stacked up right, the lack of full leather, that wouldn't stop you wanting to sell it, would it? Now, if it's a yes, guess what? You're going to have to find a car with full leather interior. Now, the color, I changed that slightly. Okay. And by the way, if one of these objections come up at this point, it has to be a minor objection. A major objection, if the mileage or the lack of leather was a full deal breaker, you wouldn't have got this part of the process. Okay. Color's a big one there. Well, red wouldn't be my first choice. Let's see if it's a deal breaker. Don't say, okay, that's reflected in the price. No one wants that. No, just cut that bit out and say, okay, but if everything else stacks up right, the color of this car, that wouldn't stop you wanting to own it, would it? And if they say yes, guess what? You're going to have to find a different color car. Okay. I love to ask that question when they've still got some time to drive in the car. They've still got 3 minutes thinking, yeah, this is the one for me. That's what a good sofa salesperson does. They ask for the business while you're still sitting on the sofa. A good estate agent that's trying to rent you or sell you a property might, when you're in the place, say, where would you put the TV in here? Oh, probably in that wall there. They're mentally living there. A good jeweler will ask you to buy that lovely Patek Philippe watch while it's on your wrist, or that lovely diamond bracelet when you're wearing it there. Okay. So I love to ask that mental ownership question, followed on by the trial close question when they're still driving the car. And when they stop, then you got time to reiterate it. Right, do you have any other questions about this car? No? Great. So what you're saying is, we just got to get the numbers right, and that's the car you'd like to go ahead with. Cool, we'll get the numbers right. It's the easiest part of my job. Guys, bit of a rant on the demonstration there. I said I'd do this after last week's one, okay? It's again a one for your salespeople. So please, would you do me a favor? Forward this on to all your salespeople. Salespeople, if you listen to this, do me a favor, just subscribe, because we have so many tips and ideas like this. And the algorithm, it really, really does help to get this out to more and more people. If you could do that, I'd really appreciate it. And do me a favor, this podcast has been going for so long. I think it's got to be one of the longest running automotive podcasts in the UK now. Motor Trade Radio, I think, has been going longer there, but we've been around for a long time now. And go back to the beginning and have a look at all the different tips that we've done. Okay, and I'm sure you've got lots of good ideas to help you sell more cars and make money. See you next time. That just leaves me to say that all details of this episode and other episodes on the selling in the motor trade can be found on our website, simcotraining.co.uk. Go there to get a copy of our book, Words That Sell Cars. Go there to sign up to a free trial of our Sales Fitness online sales training program. Easiest way to get hold of me is Simon Bowkett through LinkedIn. Thank you.